The massive ship Meridian floated through space like a small city. Inside its metal halls, 12 different alien races worked together as part of the Galactic Coalition. Each species brought their own special skills to explore the far edges. Of known Space Commander, Zethka stood 8 feet tall with thick metal plates covering his entire body. His people, the Korthani, had evolved on a world full of exploding volcanoes and giant monsters. Over millions of years, they grew natural armor that could stop laser fire. He watched the human crew members walk past him in the hallway and shook. His large head in confusion. Dr. Ilix was completely see-through, like living glass. Her crystal body showed all her organs inside, protected by diamond-hard mineral walls. The Veltar race had developed these shells over countless years of deadly radiation and falling space rocks on their home planet. She also stared at the humans with wonder. The 3 humans on the ship seemed so soft and weak compared to everyone else. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison had been a soldier before becoming a scientist who studied alien life. Dr. Lisa Chung worked as the ship's doctor and knew how to fix terrible injuries. Engineer Pete Rodriguez kept all the ship's systems running and had spent many hours working in the dangerous vacuum of space. During their evening meal together, the alien crew members started talking about evolution. They were trying to be polite, but they could not understand something that bothered them greatly. Histar, who belonged to the snake-like Scrathy race, had flexible metal scales covering his body. He moved his head side to side as he spoke through the translation device. Your kind puzzles us greatly. Every species we have met in the galaxy has some kind of natural protection. We have armor, shells, hard skin, or energy fields. But humans look like they have no defenses at all. How did your people live long enough to travel between the stars? Jake looked at Lisa and Pete, seeing they were curious rather than mean about the question. We found different ways to survive, he said. Simply. But the aliens still looked confused and wanted more explanation. Before anyone could say more, loud alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Red warning lights flashed in the dining hall. An emergency message came over the speakers. All senior staff report to the bridge immediately. We have received a distress signal. Everyone rushed to the command center. Captain Mordun, whose people lived in the crushing depths of ocean worlds, looked at the information on his screens with growing worry. His wet, gray skin glistened under the bridge lights. The signal comes from an uncharted system, he announced. A coalition survey ship has crashed on a planet called Kepler 442c. The readings show extremely dangerous conditions. The main screen filled with data about the planet. Jake whistled softly as he read the numbers. The temperature went from 40 degrees below zero to 140 degrees above. The air was full of poison gases that would kill most life forms. The ground shook constantly with earthquakes. Dangerous creatures lived there that hunted and killed anything they found. This environment exceeds safe limits for most coalition species, the ship's computer said in its calm voice. Specialized equipment and extensive preparation will be required. Dr. Ilix's crystal body showed small cracks from stress. How long would we need to prepare full environmental suits and protection systems? The computer calculated quickly. 48 hours minimum. Each species will need atmospheric processors, kinetic barriers, temperature regulation systems, and biological filters calibrated for their specific needs. The alien crew members began discussing all the complex preparations they would need. Commander Zethka's metal plates changed colors as he worried. Even with his natural armor, the temperature changes on the planet would be too much for him. Dr. Ilix could not handle the constant earthquakes that would shatter her crystal structure. Histar's metal scales would conduct the planet's lightning storms and electrocute him. Jake Morrison stood up from the meeting table. Captain, I request permission to leave immediately. The entire bridge became silent. Dr. Ilix's body flickered with what her people used to show amusement. Surely you are joking, Commander Morrison. Those conditions would kill most of us within minutes, even with full protection. That's exactly why we should go now, Lisa Chun said, standing next to Jake. Every minute we wait, the people down there have less chance of staying alive. Pete Rodriguez was already looking at technical information on his tablet. I can have basic equipment ready in 2 hours. Breathing gear, temperature control, standard spacesuits with small changes. The aliens looked at each other with what could only be called worried expressions. Commander Zefka's armor plates shifted to darker colors, showing his peoples. Sign of being upset. You cannot be serious about this. The radiation alone would go right through your soft skin. The temperature changes would damage your cells. The poison gases would eat away your breathing systems. We understand your concern, Jake replied politely, but we have handled worse situations before. The statement hung in the air like a challenge that none of the aliens could understand. Captain Morden looked at the human service records on his private screen. Jake Morrison had survived 3 different war zones and 2 crashed spacecraft. Lisa Chun had performed surgery and collapsed buildings during natural disasters. Pete Rodriguez had fixed critical systems while floating in space during meteor storms. The survivors down there, the captain said slowly. What species are they? Mixed crew, the computer replied. 2 Korthani, 1 Veltar, 2 Scrathi, and 1 Quellen. All showing life signs but growing weaker. Commander Zefka made a sound like grinding metal. My people's armor will not protect them from those temperature extremes for long. The Veltar scientist will shatter if the earthquakes continue. The Scrathi will be cooked alive by the electrical storms. Then we need to move fast, Pete said. Already heading toward the equipment storage areas. Dr. Ilix's crystal form resonated with distress. But your preparations are so simple. Basic environmental suits, portable air processors, medical supplies, and standard emergency gear. How can such basic equipment keep you alive where our advanced systems would fail? Lisa Chun paused at the door to look back at the worried alien faces. Maybe the answer is that we do not need to be kept alive. We need to stay alive ourselves. I do not understand the difference, said Histar, his metal scales clicking together nervously. You will, Jake replied as he followed his teammates. Out of the bridge. 2 hours later, the 3 humans stood in the shuttle bay wearing what looked like very basic protection compared to the massive environmental suits the aliens used. Their equipment was simple, lightweight, and easy to move in. The aliens watched through the observation windows as the humans did final checks on their gear. This is madness, Commander Zethka said to Captain Mordun. They are going to die. Down there. Perhaps, the captain replied, his amphibious eyes never leaving the humans below. But look at how they move. Look at how they work together. They are not afraid. They should be afraid, Dr. Illich said, her crystal structure showing. Stress fractures. Fear keeps species alive. It makes them prepare properly and avoid unnecessary risks. Maybe, Captain Morgan said thoughtfully. Or maybe fear is what keeps species from taking the risks they need to take. The shuttle bay doors opened to reveal the harsh vacuum of space. The small rescue craft moved away from the meridian and turned toward the dangerous planet below. On the bridge, the alien crew watched the shuttle's progress on their screens. Shuttle approaching atmosphere, the computer reported. Electromagnetic storms detected. Toxic cloud density increasing. Surface temperature readings unstable. Through the communication system, they could hear Jake's voice staying calm and steady. Meridian, this is rescue team. We're beginning atmospheric entry. Conditions are rough but manageable. Commander Zefka's plates shifted to colors showing. Disbelief, manageable? Those storms would tear our ships apart. Maybe that's the point, Captain Morden said quietly. Maybe being strong enough to survive anything. means you never learn how to survive something new. Captain Morden looked at the human service records one more time before making his decision. Against all the protests from his alien crew, he gave permission for the human rescue mission. The 3 humans prepared their equipment while the aliens watched in disbelief. Commander Zethka made one last attempt to stop them as they walked toward their shuttle. His 8-foot frame blocked their path, his metal armor plates dark with worry. Your temperature control systems will break in those extreme conditions. Without natural armor, the planet's animals will tear through your protection like paper. We will figure it out, Lisa Chun said, checking her medical supplies one final time. But how? Dr. Ilix asked, her crystal body making sounds of distress. Your species has no visible advantages over other life forms. No natural weapons, no protective shells, no backup organ systems. You are, forgive me for saying this, very fragile looking. Pete Rodriguez stopped packing his tools and looked up at the worried alien scientist. Maybe that's exactly why we will succeed where others might fail. The shuttle dropped through Kepler 442c's violent atmosphere. Lightning storms hit the small ship, while poisonous clouds made it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. The 3 humans worked together like they had done this 1,000 times before. Jake flew the shuttle through the dangerous winds. Lisa watched the medical scanners to find signs of the crashed survivors. Pete kept the shuttle's systems working as they got damaged by the hostile environment. The planet's surface looked like a nightmare. Sharp black rock formations stuck up from the ground like knives. Pools of bubbling chemicals gave off deadly fumes. Strange plants moved with intelligence that made them seem hungry and dangerous. The crashed Coalition ship lay broken across a valley, its hull split open in several places. Heat readings show at least 6 survivors, Lisa reported as they landed near the wreck. But they are spread across 2 kilometers, probably thrown out when the ship crashed. The air is reading as deadly to all Coalition species, Pete added, looking at his instruments. Good thing we are not most Coalition species. They stepped out of their shuttle into conditions that would kill most galactic citizens in minutes. The air burned their throats, even through their breathing masks. The ground was so hot it would cook Corthony flesh right through their natural armor. The electromagnetic interference would permanently damage Veltar brain functions. But something strange happened. The humans began to adapt. Jake removed his temperature control unit after 15 minutes because it was getting in his way. My body is getting used to the heat, he explained over their communication system. Lisa operated her medical scanner with her bare hands, even though her skin turned red from the corrosive atmosphere. Pete stripped down to basic space gear, finding that his natural body temperature control worked better than the artificial systems. Coalition Ship Meridian. This is Rescue Team, Jake called over the radio. We are working on the surface, beginning to look for survivors. The response from their ship crackled with static and disbelief. Confirmed, Rescue Team. Your body readings show you should be unconscious by now. We are fine, Lisa responded, already moving toward the first survivor. It was a scrathy engineer trapped under a metal beam that would need heavy machinery to lift according to Coalition standards. She and Pete simply used their combined strength and basic physics to lever the beam up, freeing the alien who stared at them with wide reptilian eyes, full of shock. The next few hours were like watching a demonstration of human adaptability that left the rescued Coalition crew members speechless. When the humans encountered the planet's crystal wolves, creatures whose diamond-hard teeth could tear through Corthony armor, Jake and Pete did not run or call for weapons. Instead, they used noise, threatening gestures, and coordinated movement to drive the pack away while Lisa treated a wounded Quellan scientist. How did you do that? The Quellan gasped, his water-breathing skin blistered by the planet's atmosphere, even through his environmental suit. Those creatures would have killed us all. They are just animals, Jake replied. putting medical bandages on the aliens' wounds. Animals can be reasoned with, even predators. You just have to understand what they want and show them you are not easy prey. When an earthquake opened up the ground and trapped 2 survivors in a deep hole filled with poisonous gas, the humans did not wait for special equipment. Pete built a ventilation system from parts of their shuttle while Jake went down on a rope made from their emergency supplies. Lisa coordinated the rescue from above, using her medical training to watch for signs of gas poisoning rather than relying on instruments that might break. The rescued Corthany soldier watched Jake climb down into the toxic pit with nothing but a basic breathing mask and a rope. "This is impossible," he said to Lisa. "The gas down there would eat through our armor in minutes. How can he survive with just that simple equipment?" "He is not trying to survive it," Lisa explained while monitoring Jake's condition from above. "He is doing what needs to be done and getting out before it can kill him. Sometimes the best protection is speed and smart thinking, not heavy armor." Pete's improvised ventilation system worked perfectly, clearing enough poison gas for Jake to reach the trapped survivors. When they pulled everyone to safety, the scrathy engineer whose metal scales were badly damaged by the planet's corrosive air watched Pete repair critical systems with his bare hands exposed to the toxic atmosphere. "Your species confuses me greatly," the engineer admitted, his voice weak from his injuries. "You have no natural protection, yet you survive what would kill us. You have no enhanced strength, yet you move things we cannot. You have no improved senses, yet you see dangers we miss. How is this possible?" "We are stubborn," Pete replied with a smile, making final adjustments to the shuttle's engines with tools that should have been destroyed by the hostile environment. "And we do not give up when things get difficult." By the time they lifted off from Kepler 442c, all 6 coalition survivors were safely aboard, but in poor condition. Their various environmental suits and protection systems had been pushed far beyond their limits. The Corthany soldiers' biometallic plating showed stress cracks from the temperature extremes. The Veltar scientists' crystal structure had developed dangerous splits from the constant earthquakes. The scrothy engineer's metal scales were eaten away by atmospheric chemicals. The 3 humans sat in the cockpit, tired but basically unharmed. Their simple equipment was still working despite conditions that had destroyed the more advanced coalition technology. "Meridian, this is rescue shuttle returning with all survivors," Jake reported as they approached their ship. "Mission successful." The response came after a long pause. "Confirmed, rescue shuttle. Medical teams are standing by. We are having trouble understanding how you accomplished this." "We did what needed to be done," Lisa replied, simply in the shuttle's passenger area. The rescued aliens huddled together, their protective suits and equipment barely functioning. They whispered among themselves in their various languages, all asking the same question in different ways. The Quellan scientist, his amphibious skin still showing damage from the toxic atmosphere, spoke for all of them. "We have studied human physiology. Your species lacks every advantage we have identified as necessary for survival in hostile environments. No armor, no enhanced healing, no redundant organs, no special resistances. Yet you just did what should have been impossible." "Maybe," Pete said from the pilot's seat, "that is exactly the point. You all evolved perfect solutions to specific problems. But what happens when you face a problem your evolution did not prepare you for?" The question hung in the recycled air of the shuttle. As they docked with the Meridian, the rescued aliens had no answer, but they were beginning to understand that the answer might change everything they thought they knew about survival. As they were helped to the medical bay, each of the coalition survivors carried with them new respect for the species they had once considered the weakest in the galaxy. They had seen humans survive conditions that would have killed them, not despite their lack of armor, but perhaps because of it. The real questions were just beginning. Back aboard the Meridian, the rescued Coalition crew members were rushed to the medical bay for emergency treatment. Their environmental suits had failed in multiple ways during the rescue mission. The Corthony soldiers' natural armor showed deep cracks from the extreme temperatures. The Veltar scientists' crystal body had dangerous splits from the constant earthquakes. The Scrathy engineers' metal scales were eaten away by the planet's poisonous air. Meanwhile, the three humans went through routine medical checks after their mission. The results shocked the alien medical staff. Despite spending hours in conditions that nearly killed their Coalition colleagues, Jake, Lisa, and Pete showed only minor problems. Some throat irritation from the bad air, slightly red skin, and mild dehydration. Dr. Ilix conducted the examination herself, her crystal form flickering with scientific curiosity. Your cellular structure shows repair mechanisms I have never seen before. Your skin cells are actively fixing damage from chemical exposure while you are still being exposed. Your breathing system somehow filtered toxins that should have caused massive organ failure. It's called healing, Lisa Chun explained patiently. Our bodies fix themselves when they get damaged. All species heal, Dr. Ilix responded, running another scan. But not at this speed, and not while continuing to function under extreme stress. Your blood chemistry shows you were processing deadly toxins in real time, changing them into less harmful substances inside your bodies. Jake Morrison allowed another round of medical scans while trying to explain their perspective. Look, we appreciate the scientific interest, but this is not unusual for humans. We have been adapting to hostile environments for thousands of years. Our ancestors survived ice ages, droughts, diseases, and natural disasters without any of the technology we have now. Commander Zethka joined the medical examination, his armored shell still showing battle damage from their brief encounter with the planet's dangerous wildlife. But how is this possible? Your species lacks every evolutionary advantage we have, identified as important for survival. No natural armor, no backup organs, no enhanced physical abilities. Maybe that's exactly the point, Pete Rodriguez suggested from the examination table. You all evolved specific solutions to specific problems. Heavy armor for fighting, crystal shells for radiation, metal scales for electrical protection. But what happens when you encounter a problem your evolution did not prepare you for? The question made all the aliens think about their recent rescue experience. Each of their species' evolutionary advantages had actually become weaknesses on Kepler 442c. The Corthony's armor made them vulnerable to temperature changes. The Veltar's rigid structure could not handle earthquakes. The Scrathy's conductive scales turned them into targets for lightning strikes during electrical storms. Dr. Elix ran another scan, this time focusing on human brain activity. Your neural structures show remarkable flexibility. When faced with unknown threats, your brain pathways form new connections almost instantly. It is as if your entire nervous system is designed for encountering the unexpected. Evolution does not just create armor, Lisa explained, looking at the medical data on the screens. Sometimes it creates the ability to change instead. Humans did not evolve to handle one specific threat. We evolved to handle change itself. The medical bay became quiet as the implications began to sink in. Commander Zethka's armor plates shifted to a color pattern that meant deep thinking among his people. You are saying your species' evolutionary advantage is having no specific evolutionary advantage? More like having the ability to develop advantages as we need them, Jake clarified. We adapt physically through training and conditioning. We adapt mentally by learning and solving problems. We adapt socially by working together and sharing knowledge. To prove his point, Jake asked for access to the ship's training facilities. Over the next several days, he went through the same environmental conditioning that Coalition species used to prepare for hostile worlds. The aliens watched with growing amazement as his body adapted to pressure changes, temperature extremes, and atmospheric variations that would require genetic modification for their species to handle. Pete Rodriguez worked with the engineering team to modify coalition technology for human use. He showed how human problem-solving could find solutions that specialized thinking might miss. When the scruffy engineers insisted that their electromagnetic shielding could not be improved, Pete approached the problem from a completely different angle. He created a more effective system using principles that had not occurred to the specialized reptilian minds. Lisa Chun worked with the medical team to treat coalition crew members. She showed how human medical knowledge combined pattern recognition, intuitive diagnosis, and adaptive treatment methods. When Dr. Elix encountered a bacterial infection that her crystal immune system could not process, Lisa developed a treatment that worked by understanding the infection's behavior rather than relying on predetermined biological responses. The aliens began to realize that humanity's apparent weakness, their lack of specialized evolutionary traits, was actually their greatest strength. Where other species had evolved perfect solutions to specific problems, humans had evolved the ability to find workable solutions to any problem. "Your species is terrifying," Commander Zefka admitted during a joint training session where Jake was learning to work in Corthony-level gravity. Not because you are physically superior, but because you are unpredictable. Every other species in the coalition can be understood through their evolutionary advantages and limitations, but humans can become whatever they need to become. The observation spread throughout the ship as the alien crew members began to understand what they had witnessed. The humans had not survived Kepler 442c despite their lack of natural armor. They had survived because of their lack of natural armor. Their ability to adapt allowed them to handle threats that would have overwhelmed more specialized species. Dr. Elix spent hours studying the medical data from the rescue mission. "Look at these readings," she told her research team. When the humans encountered the crystal wolves, their heart rates increased, but not with panic. Their bodies were preparing for either fight or flight, but their minds were calculating options. When they chose intimidation over combat, their physiology adapted to support that choice. "It's decision-making on a biological level," observed one of her assistants, a young Veltar scientist. Their evolution did not give them claws or armor, but it gave them the ability to choose what response would work best in any given situation. Meanwhile, Pete Rodriguez was revolutionizing the engineering department's approach to problem-solving. Instead of relying on the scratchy method of building systems to exact specifications, he taught them to build adaptable systems that could be modified as needed. "Your ships are perfectly designed for known conditions," he explained to a group of confused alien engineers. "But space is full of unknown conditions. What happens when you encounter something your perfect design did not account for?" He demonstrated by taking a standard coalition atmospheric processor and modifying it with simple tools and basic materials. The result was a system that was less efficient under normal conditions, but could handle a much wider range of atmospheric compositions. "It's not about being the best at one thing," Pete continued. "It's about being good enough at many things that you can handle whatever comes up." Lisa Chun was having similar success in the medical bay. She worked with doctors from various species to develop treatment protocols that could adapt to unexpected medical situations. Instead of having one perfect solution for each problem, they created flexible approaches that could be modified based on what they found. "Human medicine is not about having the right answer," she explained to Dr. Elix during one of their research sessions. "It's about being able to find an answer, even when you have never seen the problem before." As word of these developments spread through the ship, the aliens began to view humans in an entirely new light. They were not the weakest species in the coalition. They were possibly the most dangerous, not because they could fight better or survive longer, But because they could change faster than anyone else could predict, the question that had started everything, why humans lacked armor, was beginning to be answered. But the answer was raising new questions that would challenge everything the Coalition thought they knew about survival and evolution. News of the human rescue mission spread throughout the Coalition fleet, creating both curiosity and doubt among the leadership of various species. Admiral Corks Munn, a Corthany commander whose natural armor had never failed him in 3 centuries of service, called for a formal demonstration of human abilities. "The reports are hard to believe," he admitted during a secure communication with Captain Morgan. "No species survives purely through the ability to change. There must be some hidden advantage, some genetic modification, or secret technology. That explains their success." The Meridian received orders to meet with the Coalition testing facility at Sigma Station, a massive space platform designed to test new technologies and biological capabilities. The station contained environmental chambers that could copy any known hostile condition in the galaxy. Jake Morrison, Lisa Chun, and Pete Rodriguez agreed to participate in a series of trials. They wanted to help their Coalition allies understand human capabilities and limitations. The tests were designed by a joint committee of Coalition scientists, with each species contributing challenges based on their own evolutionary advantages. The first trial copied the Corthany homeworld. It was a high-gravity environment with constant earthquakes and dangerous animals that had evolved to hunt armored prey. The Corthany observers expected the humans to ask for heavy protective equipment or special gravity suits. Instead, the humans entered the test chamber with basic gear and immediately began changing how they moved. Jake showed human body mechanics, demonstrating how their species could modify their walking style, posture, and balance to handle conditions their evolution had never specifically prepared them for. When they met the simulated predators, holographic creatures based on animals that hunted by sensing vibrations through armor, the humans confused them by moving in ways the predators' programming had not expected. "They are not fighting the environment," observed Dr. Clothora, a Corthany scientist watching from the observation deck. "They are negotiating with it." The second trial recreated the Veltar homeworld's radiation fields and crystal formations. The crystal observers expected the humans to need extensive radiation, shielding, and protective barriers. Lisa Chun surprised them by using her medical knowledge to monitor radiation exposure in real time, adjusting their activities to stay within safe limits while still completing their objectives. Pete Rodriguez demonstrated human tool use, creating makeshift radiation detectors from common materials and finding solutions that worked around the problem rather than through it. "Their approach is completely different from ours," Dr. Ilix noted, her crystal form flickering with scientific interest. "We evolved to absorb and channel radiation safely. They have learned to dance with it, taking just enough exposure to accomplish their goals without suffering permanent damage." The most challenging trial recreated the Scrathy homeworld's electrical storms and conductive landscape. The Scrathy observers were confident that without natural electrical channeling, the humans would be forced to retreat or ask for specialized equipment. The 3 humans entered the chamber and immediately began demonstrating human cleverness. They created protective shelters from available materials, used their understanding of electrical principles to predict safe paths through the storm, and coordinated their movements to minimize exposure while maximizing progress. "They are not trying to withstand the electricity," realized engineer Shia Stock, his metal scales clicking with amazement. "They are using their intelligence to avoid it completely." But the real test came when the chamber malfunctioned, combining elements from all 3 homeworld simulations at once. High gravity, radiation, electrical storms, earthquakes, and dangerous creatures all activated simultaneously. These were conditions that would be deadly to any Coalition species, even with full protective equipment. The Coalition observers prepared to stop the test, but the humans did not panic. Instead, they adapted their strategy in real time. Jake used the earthquake patterns to predict safe zones from the electrical storms. Lisa calculated radiation exposure rates and found paths that minimized total damage. Pete combined materials from their various improvised tools to create new solutions for the combined threats. They did not just survive the combined challenge. They found a way to accomplish their mission objectives while the chamber threw everything it could at them. Admiral Korksman watched the entire demonstration with growing amazement. His own armor had stress cracks just from observing the simulated conditions through the protective observation window. How do they do it? Every challenge we have presented should have required millions of years of specialized evolution to overcome. Dr. Ilix provided the answer that had been building throughout their observations. They are not overcoming the challenges in the way we understand overcoming. They are constantly changing their approach until they find something that works. It is not about being strong enough or tough enough or smart enough. It is about being flexible enough to become what the situation needs. The demonstration concluded with a final test. The humans were asked to face a completely new challenge, an environment that none of the coalition species had ever encountered, with threats that no one's evolution had prepared them for. The chamber simulated a world of living crystal formations that responded to emotional states, gravity fields that shifted based on magnetic signatures, and atmospheric conditions that changed based on the inhabitants' breathing patterns. It was a puzzle that required adaptation to variables that no species had ever evolved to handle. The coalition observers watched as the three humans entered this impossible environment and began the process that defined their species. They observed, formed theories, tested ideas, adapted, and tried again. When their first approach failed, they tried a second. When that failed, they tried a third. They talked constantly, sharing observations and building on each other's insights. Within hours, they had developed strategies for navigating the shift in gravity, managing the emotion-responsive crystals, and controlling their breathing to maintain stable atmospheric conditions. They did not master the environment. They learned to live within it. This is their true strength, Admiral Korksman concluded, his armor plates shifting to colors that showed deep respect among his people. Every other species in the coalition has evolved to excel in specific conditions. But humans have evolved to excel at excelling, to develop whatever capabilities they need for whatever they encounter. The test results spread throughout the coalition. Leadership fundamentally changing how other species viewed humanity. The question was no longer why humans lacked natural armor, but whether any species truly needed it when they had the human ability to adapt. Dr. Ilix compiled a comprehensive report on human capabilities that would become required reading for all coalition scientists. Human evolution, she wrote, represents a unique approach to survival. Rather than developing specific solutions to environmental pressures, they develop the capacity to develop solutions. This meta-adaptation may be the most powerful evolutionary strategy we have ever encountered. Commander Zethka added his own military assessment. In tactical terms, humans represent an enemy that cannot be predicted or prepared for. They do not fight according to their evolutionary programming, because their evolution gave them the ability to transcend programming. This makes them simultaneously the most valuable allies and the most dangerous opponents in known space. Pete Rodriguez, reviewing the test data with his alien colleagues, offered a simpler explanation. You all keep thinking about this as some kind of superpower, but it is really just the willingness to try something different when what you are doing is not working. Most species seem to get locked into one way of thinking. We just never learned how to get locked into anything. The implications were staggering. If humans could teach other species to think beyond their evolutionary limitations, the coalition's capabilities would increase exponentially. But it also raised disturbing questions about what would happen if humanity ever became an enemy, rather then an ally. As the Meridian prepared to leave Sigma Station, the alien crew members looked at their human colleagues with new understanding. They had witnessed something that challenged their fundamental assumptions about survival, evolution, and the nature of intelligence itself. The humans, for their part, seemed largely unaware of the revolution in thinking they had caused. They went about their duties with the same adaptable efficiency that had impressed everyone, already focused on whatever challenge would come next. 6 months after the demonstration at Sigma Station, the Coalition faced its greatest threat yet. Long-range sensors detected something approaching that made every species' military leaders nervous. A massive ship of unknown design was moving toward Coalition space, larger than anything they had ever seen. The alien vessel ignored all attempts at communication. Its technology was completely different from anything in Coalition databases. Early scans revealed weapons that seemed designed to counter every known Coalition defense. The ship's energy signature suggested it could destroy any Coalition world. It chose to attack. Emergency meetings were called across all Coalition governments. Each species mobilized their military forces, but the analysis revealed a terrifying truth. The alien vessel appeared to have specific counters for every Coalition species' natural advantages. Its weapons could pierce Corthany armor, its energy fields could shatter Veltar crystal structures, and its electromagnetic pulses could overload Scrathy nervous systems. It is as if they have been studying us for years, Admiral Corksman reported during a joint military briefing. His armor plates were dark with worry. Every advantage our species have evolved, they have a specific way to defeat it. Captain Morgan and the crew of the Meridian were called to Coalition Command to help with strategic planning. For the first time since the rescue mission, the alien crew members looked to their human colleagues with hope rather than curiosity. "We need to think about this differently," Jake Morrison suggested during the strategy session. "Every species here is planning to use their evolutionary advantages against this threat. But what if that is exactly what they expect us to do?" Dr. Ilix's crystal form flickered with sudden understanding. "You are suggesting that our specialized advantages have become predictable weaknesses." "More than that," Lisa Chun added, studying the tactical displays. "If this species has been watching the Coalition, they have probably developed strategies based on our known behaviors. They know how Corthany warriors fight, how Veltar scientists think, how Scrathy engineers solve problems." Pete Rodriguez pulled up scan data showing the alien vessel's movement patterns. "Look at how they approach each of our worlds. They are not just studying our defenses. They are cataloging our species' behavior patterns. They know exactly how we will respond because they understand our evolutionary programming." The Coalition leadership realized a frightening truth. Their greatest strength, the specialized evolution that made each species excellent at specific tasks, had become their greatest weakness. The alien invaders could predict their responses because evolution had made those responses automatic. "But they have not studied humans," Commander Zethka observed, his armor plates shifting to colors that meant strategic thinking. "Your species is not in their database because you do not have predictable evolutionary responses." The plan that emerged was unlike anything the Coalition had ever attempted. Instead of using each species' evolutionary advantages, they would create mixed human-alien teams designed to act in ways the invaders could not predict. Jake Morrison led a group that included Corthany warriors, but instead of relying on their natural armor, he trained them to fight using human principles: adaptability, unpredictability, and constant change of tactics. The Corthany discovered that when they abandoned their evolutionary programming and used human-style flexibility, they became far more effective against an enemy designed to counter their natural advantages. "This feels wrong," admitted one young Corthany soldier as he practiced human fighting techniques. "Every instinct tells me to rely on my armor and charge forward." "That is exactly why it will work," Jake explained. Your instincts are what the enemy has studied and prepared for. When you fight like a human, you become unpredictable. Lisa Chun coordinated medical and scientific teams that combined human adaptability with alien expertise. When the invaders deployed biological weapons designed to target specific coalition species, she developed treatment methods that worked by constantly changing approaches. This was exactly the opposite of the specialized biological responses the weapons were designed to counter. The weapon adapts to our standard immune responses, Dr. Ilix observed as they worked together in the medical lab. But when we change our approach every few minutes, it cannot adapt fast enough. Exactly, Lisa replied, preparing another variation of their treatment. We are not trying to be stronger than the weapon. We are trying to be more changeable than it is. Pete Rodriguez worked with engineering teams from multiple species to modify coalition technology using human problem-solving methods. Instead of relying on the predictable solutions that each species' evolution would suggest, they created systems that combined multiple approaches in ways the invaders' analysis could not anticipate. The final confrontation came when the alien vessel moved to attack the coalition's primary defense station. The expected battle between overwhelming force and specialized defenses never happened. Instead, the coalition responded with tactics that defied every model the invaders had developed. Human-led boarding parties attacked the alien vessel not with superior technology or evolutionary advantages, but with the one thing the invaders could not predict: the ability to adapt faster than their enemies could analyze and counter. The boarding teams encountered defenses designed to stop every known coalition species, but those defenses failed against an enemy that did not rely on predictable evolutionary responses. When Korthani warriors abandoned their armored fighting style and used human flexibility, the invaders' anti-armor weapons became useless. When Veltar scientists stopped thinking in rigid patterns and embraced human creativity, the invaders' logic traps fell apart. When Scrothy engineers ignored their species' electrical expertise and used human improvisation, the invaders' system disruptions missed their targets completely. The alien vessel's crew belonged to a species that had evolved perfect analytical abilities. They found themselves facing an enemy they could not analyze. They had prepared for every known coalition response except the one that humans had taught their allies. The ability to become something different when the situation demanded it. Jake Morrison led his mixed team through the alien ship's corridors, constantly changing their approach as they encountered new defenses. Remember, he told his alien teammates, over their communication system, do not do what your evolution tells you to do. Do what the situation needs you to do. The battle ended not with humanity's victory, but with the coalition's evolution. The various species did not abandon their evolutionary advantages. They learned to go beyond them when necessary. They discovered that true strength came not from being perfectly adapted to known conditions, but from being able to adapt to unknown conditions. When the alien vessel was finally disabled, its crew surrendered to a coalition force they could not understand or predict. The invaders had prepared for everything except the possibility that their enemies could change faster than they could adapt. In the aftermath, as the coalition rebuilt and prepared for future challenges, the question that started everything was finally answered completely. Humans did not lack armor. They had something better. They had the ability to become whatever they needed to become, to find solutions that did not yet exist, and to teach others to do the same. Commander Zefka, his armor now bearing scars from the battles fought using human tactics rather than Korthani evolution, spoke for the entire coalition when he addressed the human crew of the Meridian. We wondered why your species survived without natural armor. Now we understand. You did not need armor because you had something no armor could provide: the ability to change. You have taught us that evolution is not about becoming perfect for known conditions. It is about becoming capable of handling unknown conditions. Dr. Ilix, her crystal structure now incorporating flexible elements that allowed for human-style adaptability, added her own observation. You have shown us that our greatest strength was also our greatest weakness. We had become so specialized that we had forgotten how to be general. You helped us remember that intelligence is not about having the right answer. It is about being able to find an answer. Pete Rodriguez, now working as a permanent liaison between human and coalition engineering teams, provided the final perspective. We did not teach you anything you did not already know. Every species here has the ability to adapt. You just needed someone to remind you that it is okay to step outside your evolutionary programming when the situation calls for it. The story concluded with the Meridian continuing its mission, but now with a crew that truly understood the value of diversity. Not just the diversity of having different species with different abilities, but the diversity of thought and approach that comes from being willing to change when change is needed. The aliens no longer wondered why humans lacked armor. They understood that humans had something far more valuable. The armor of adaptability, the protection of flexibility, and the strength that comes from never being locked into a single way of thinking or acting.